If there's one question that I get asked more than any other, it has to be, hey Alfie, who do you think is the best goalkeeper at every height, graded by increments of inches, starting from 5'8", and going all the way up to 6'10"? No, not really, but that is what I'm going to look at in today's video. I have previously made a video, some time ago now, looking at the best player at every height, in any position. But today's video is solely about the men tasked with keeping the ball out the back of the net. I might be entirely on my own on this front, but the reason I love these types of videos is because they include relatively obscure players alongside bona fide stars of the world game, in a way you wouldn't typically see such players feature side by side. Naturally, the lesser known names feature in the early parts and then towards the end of the video, with most of the top rated goalkeepers in the world measuring in between 188 and 193 centimetres, or between 6'2" and 6'4", though there are obviously one or two outliers. I'm starting the video at 5'8", which is just under 173 centimetres, which is markedly short for a goalkeeper. I could have started even shorter, but the players would then become so obscure that there aren't any images of them in the Getty database, and I just have to show images of Oompa Loompas or something instead. I'll be going through the keepers by measurement in feet and inches, because that tends to be how footballers' heights are described in the UK, and if I went up in centimetres, this video would be an hour long. But I will mention the height in centimetres frequently throughout for those unfamiliar with imperial measurements. I must point out that different sources tend to state different heights for players, so I used what I consider to be 3 of the most reliable sources, and if 2 out of the 3 had the same height, I took that figure as being accurate. Of course, it is not necessarily gospel, and I think particularly shorter goalkeepers may tend to add a couple of inches or a few centimetres onto their height when possible, particularly on Wikipedia, since some clubs just won't sign a 5'8" goalkeeper. Anyhow, mega intro done and dusted, here are my views on the best goalkeeper at every height, ranging from 5'8" all the way up to 6'10". 5'8", Tebogo Ngonbe. A goalkeeper who should be familiar to South African viewers, Tebogo Ngonbe is a veteran of the South African game, who has spent the vast majority of his career as a backup option. A graduate of the Kaizer Chiefs Academy, Ngonbe currently plays for Morocco Swallows, alongside Namibian number 1 Virgil Vries. The 31-year-old is reportedly 173 centimetres tall, making him almost exactly 5'8". Renowned for his reflexes and acrobatics, rather unsurprisingly for a man of his size, Ngonbe represented South Africa once at under 20 level, but he has never won a cap for the senior team. The sizest pigs. 5'9", Raul Alcala. I've said it before and I'll say it again, if it's short goalkeepers that you're looking for, and I'm not quite sure why you would be, but that's beside the point, then you need to hightail it over to Central and South America. Adding weight to that rather bold claim is one Raul Alcala, who didn't play top-flight football for the first time until the age of 25. However, since making his Liga MX debut with Querétaro in 2018, Alcala has looked right at home in Mexico's top flight. At 176 centimetres tall, Alcala doesn't fill up too much of his goal, but he compensates for that fact with his agility and enthusiasm. Wikipedia lists Alcala's height as being 179 centimetres, which I think must have been edited by his agent, angling for a move. 5'10", Lucas Chavez. Heading south from Mexico to Argentina, but staying in the Americas, Lucas Chavez is variously reported as either being 178 or 179 centimetres tall. I am banking on it being the former, otherwise he'd be too tall for 5'10", and thankfully 2 out of my 3 sources back that number up. A graduate of the Argentinos Juniors youth ranks, the club that also produced Diego Armando Maradona, Chavez is as yet a one-club man, though he is still only 25. A first-team player since 2016, Chavez has played more than 100 games for the club, and he's renowned for his eagerness to venture outside of his box, exhibited rather well in this photograph. 5'11", Geordie Massip. The first height at which I had a real decision to make, Football Manager aficionados will be familiar with Venezuela number 1, Vilca Farinas, who is 5'11" and has already been capped 26 times by CONMEBOL's historic Black Sheep, aged 23. He is currently on loan at Lens in Liga 1 from Colombian side Millonarios, where he has struggled for game time, and I can't yet put him ahead of Geordie Massip, in spite of how good I seem to recall he became on one edition of FM. Massip is a graduate of La Masia, Catalonia, born and raised. A regular for Barca B, Massip played 4 games in the Barcelona first team between 2014 and 2017, before signing for Real Valladolid. He has since played more than 130 games for the La Liga side, who are looking to stay up once again this season. Though he is just 180cm tall, Massip commands his 6-yard box well, and he's earned plenty of plaudits so far this season. 6 foot. Anthony Lopez. Stepping up into the big leagues, quite literally, Anthony Lopez has Swiss number 1 Jan Sommer and Chilean legend Claudio Bravo for competition at 6 foot. Nonetheless, he still comes up trumps in my eyes, the 183 to 184 cm tall, French-born Portuguese international. Born in a commune 16 miles south of Lyon to Portuguese parents, Lopez joined Lyon as a 9-year-old, but always represented Portugal from under 17 level onwards. Now capped 13 times by the European champions at senior level, with almost 400 appearances for Lyon under his belt, Lopez is an underrated shot stopper and one of the best in Liga 1 in my eyes. 6'1", Keylor Navas. Speaking of underrated Liga 1 goalkeepers, I have long championed Keylor Navas on this channel throughout a period in which he seemed to receive plenty of undue criticism at Real Madrid. An excellent goalkeeper who just took some time to establish himself within the European game, Navas is now a 3-time UEFA Champions League champion who has won league titles in 3 different countries. Capped 93 times by Costa Rica, Navas is perhaps the greatest goalkeeper from a CONCACAF nation of all time, so he takes the crown at 6'1" right now, in my eyes at least. 6'2", Jan Oblak. The most consistent goalkeeper on the planet over the last 5 or 6 years, ever since signing for Atletico Madrid and replacing Thibaut Courtois, Jan Oblak has been nothing short of exceptional. Honourable mentions deservedly go to the likes of Barcelona number 1, Marc-Andre ter Stegen, and Manchester City star Ederson, but neither can usurp Oblak in terms of raw goalkeeping ability. He may only have won a handful of trophies, but the 28-year-old will go down as one of the finest goalkeepers of his generation. 6'3", Alisson Becker. Struggling a little this season, along with the rest of the Liverpool squad, prior to this topsy-turvy campaign at Anfield, Alisson Becker had been virtually faultless for the last 3 seasons. Outstanding at Roma, he set Liverpool back a brief world record-breaking £66.8 million for a goalkeeper, but he has more than justified that fee. Named in the FIFA Pro World 11 in 2019 and 2020, Alisson won the Premier League Golden Glove in the season before last. Capped 44 times by Brazil, Alisson stands at a reported 191cm tall, and he takes the crown at 6'3", ahead of Premier League duo Rui Patricio and Lucas Fabianski. 6'4", Manuel Neuer. A comfortable winner at 6'4", despite competition from Samir Handanovic and David De Gea, Manuel Neuer is the most influential goalkeeper for at least the last 20 years, and without doubt, the best to have been born since Gianluigi Buffon and Iker Casillas. Many would argue that the German has already eclipsed the talents of both of those two, and whether you share that sentiment or not, it is impossible to deny the way in which Neuer has shaped his position since bursting onto the scene at Schalke. A giant of a man at 6'4", or 193cm, Neuer dominates not just his own 6-yard box, but roughly a third of the pitch most of the time. 6'5", Gianluigi Donnarumma. The toughest selection decision in this entire video in my eyes, Serie A hotshots Gianluigi Donnarumma and Wojciech Szczesny are both 6'5", as is Werder Bremen and Czechia goalkeeper Yuri Pavlenka, who I probably owe an honourable mention. I think that there are pros and cons to both Donnarumma and Szczesny. Donnarumma is more agile and capable of pulling off the spectacular, meanwhile Szczesny is so assured when it comes to the fundamentals these days, and is perhaps even more consistent. I've given it to Donnarumma, who has been excellent this season, and if he hasn't yet eclipsed the pole, then he will do very shortly. Donnarumma is said to be 1cm taller than Szczesny, at 196cm tall, so he has that going for him as well. 6'6", Nick Pope. Some of you will be aware that there is actually a bit of a dispute surrounding Nick Pope's height. Burnley's official website lists him as being 191cm tall on his player profile, which is about 6'3". Meanwhile, EA Sports' FIFA video game series lists his height as being 6'7", which is obviously rather a large difference compared to 6'3", leading some to question which figure is the correct one. I must admit, I couldn't get 2 out of my 3 sources to agree on this one. So, in the interest of full disclosure, Nick Pope is the first keeper in this list who I used a different source for altogether. That source being Nick Pope. In an interview with Pope a few years ago, he described himself as being 6'6"-ish, which is good enough for me, so the Burnley and England man takes this one ahead of the likes of young Leeds United goalkeeper Illan Meslier and Wolfsburg number 1 Koen Casteels. 6'7", Thibaut Courtois. I know Thibaut Courtois is really tall, but I'm still slightly surprised every time I hear just how tall he is. The Belgian number 1, who joined Real Madrid in the summer of 2018, has won a pretty remarkable 83 caps, still aged only 28. He'll probably end up in a battle with Romelu Lukaku to overtake Jan Vertonghen's record as Belgium's most capped player of all time in around a decade's time. But for now, Courtois' focus is on Real's Champions League and La Liga aspirations, along with the Euros this summer. Following a difficult debut campaign at the Bernabeu, in which he struggled to live up to the high post-2018 World Cup expectations, Courtois was excellent last season, and he very comfortably sees off the competition of Southampton keeper Fraser Forster, who is the same height as him. 6'8", Costel Pantilimon. A familiar face to followers of the English game due to his time at Manchester City, Sunderland, Watford, and most recently of all, Nottingham Forest, I must admit that Costel Pantilimon never really filled me with confidence between the sticks. Having said that, he certainly fills up plenty of the goal, at 203 centimetres tall, and weighing in as one of the heaviest players in the history of the Premier League. I'm not calling him fat for the record, that's just a fact. Capped 27 times by Romania, Pantilimon is a giant of a man who sees off the challenge of fellow giant and Ajax deputy Kjell Scherpen at the height of 6'6", and he now plays for Denizlispor in the Turkish Super League. 6'9", Tomasz Holy. From a keeper who used to ply his trade in England to one that still does, uncapped Czech goalkeeper Tomasz Holy arrived in the English game with Gillingham in 2017. He made the 80-odd mile journey north from Kent to Suffolk in 2019, joining League One playoff hopefuls Ipswich Town on a free transfer. Unsurprisingly pretty dominant when it comes to claiming the ball, given that he's the same height as Godzilla, I must admit that Holy's handling has looked a little suspect on the 2 or 3 occasions that I have watched Ipswich this season. But again, unsurprisingly, he doesn't have a great deal of competition at 6'9". 6'10", Christophe VanHoot. The go-to inclusion at 6'10", because there are no other goalkeepers or even professional footballers in any position as far as I'm aware, who are 6'10" tall. At 208 centimetres tall, according to what I'm sure is a very reliable source called thefamouspeople.com, VanHoot is the same height as NBA legend Bill Russell, WWE legend The Undertaker, and Britain's Got Talent legend Susan Boyle. Oh no, sorry. Susan Boyle is 158 centimetres tall, not 208. I was really starting to see her in a different light there for a moment. Where was I? Oh yeah, Christophe VanHoot, the Belgian giant who used to play in India for Delhi Dynamos and is now contracted to Belgian second-tier side Westerlo as a player and assistant manager. Presumably they also use him to retrieve balls from high up, difficult-to-reach spots and to help out reaching any paperwork in the office that's maybe stuck on the top shelf. I should be his agent. So that is it for today's video. Thank you all as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on just by hitting the little notifications bell for HITC Sevens. Oh, and you can also find me on Twitter or Instagram via the username at HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.